We're here on Tales with Taylor with Joy Johnson, enjoying one of her favorite cocktails, which is a lemon drop martini. So tell me, what is it about the lemon drop martini?
Let's cheers to that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I love the fruit and the tart taste. Then of course I love the sugar rim. It's just it's dainty, but it can be potent, so we better watch out.
You know, I've never had this before. It's actually really good.
Let's talk tales. This episode's guest on Tales with Taylor can turn your event from lame to luxurious, dull to dazzling, from mundane to magnificent, stale to stunning, from lifeless to lively. And she's been doing it since 2001 after planning numerous philanthropic events all over the country. It's Joy Johnson of Joyous Events. How are you doing today?
You know what? I'm doing wonderful for that beautiful introduction. Thank you, Taylor, for having me. That was wonderful.
Yeah, well, it is so true because I have witnessed it with my own eyes. I have seen a dull, plain restaurant space turn into a lively, fun, energetic, and inspiring event. So tell me the tale that originally inspired you to get involved in event planning and just turning up the notch when it comes to having an event.
Well, I tell you, you have already pretty much conveyed it. I was doing philanthropic work all over the country. I was following my husband around the country. He used to play in the NBA, and sometimes, or many times, when we ended up in a city, I was at the helm of planning the wives event. I don't know how I got there. I don't know what my fellow wives or women or even the team personnel saw in me, but I ended up leading a lot of philanthropic events on behalf of the team and our wives organizations. Just fell in love with that part. It was just fulfilling for me to just be able to take nothing to something and raise significant dollars and then obviously distribute it to the organizations that the team thought were worthwhile. And so it was actually my husband who saw something in me because when he came to me and said, you know what, Joy, you're really good at this. You need to start your own business. And I was like, nobody's going to pay me to plan an event. Anybody can do that. Mm-mm. But yeah, it really was him. And so I was president of our NBA Wives Association for 4 years. So I was planning we're working with wives all over the country. We were planning NBA All-Star events every year. And after one of those events, we came home. My husband ran into someone who asked him, hey, I saw Joy on BET being interviewed. Does she do events locally? And my husband goes, oh, yeah, she does. And that's how Joyous Event came into being. He came home with, you have an interview. And I'm like, what? And went to the interview, landed the contract, didn't have a name, didn't have an LLC, not a bank account, but I had a contract and it's been booming ever since.
You know, and sometimes you just got to get started.
Yes.
You know, I think many times business owners, they got to worry about, I got to have a beautiful looking website. I got to have this, I got to have that.
Yes.
No, you just have to have a vision and you have to have a solution for people.
Yes.
And then if you can provide that solution, the rest can follow through.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I would love to know a tale of one of your favorite events or event that's really stuck with you. One that perhaps, you know, it was just the guests that were there, or perhaps, you know, the transition that you were able to make and, you know, that you weren't sure, or, you know, tell me a tale about an event that really stuck with you.
Well, you know, I've had quite a few of those. I'll name the very first one. Had a girlfriend who was battling breast cancer, and she wrote a play. Mm-hmm. And this play was called Life in the Cancer Lane. Beautiful play. She performed it, had amateur actors and actresses perform it, and we learned that she was terminal. And a group of friends and myself said, we need to get this play in front of a larger audience. So in 3 weeks, we solicited a sponsor. We galvanized the community, and people from all over the country flew in, and we were able to put that play on stage with professional actors.
Wow. And
3 weeks later, she succumbed. So that's that was yes. So that, you know, not a happy ending, but the fact that she got to see her play on stage, her parents and all of her best family and friends came from out of town. I would say another one is I did a wedding during the pandemic.
Oh.
And so obviously we went from this big, you know, fantastic wedding that was supposed to be, started planning obviously in the middle of 2019. And we had to scale it down to obviously just 10, 15 people to attend.
Yeah.
But it was still very beautiful. And the bride and groom were very happy. And we were able to scale down, make it lovely. They didn't want to wait. They still wanted to go ahead and get married because her father was ill and her father was able to walk her down the aisle. So
That's so
two
special.
very, very sentimental ones for me. More of a happier one. Not to say that the wedding wasn't happy, but I would say 48 Women of Arizona. I co-produced a book, coffee table book, on behalf of Arizona Centennial back in 2012. And a very dear friend of mine who's a native had this idea. We're going to produce this book that includes 48 women. Do you know why 48?
Well, because we're state 48.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're the 48th state in
Yeah.
the country to enter the statehood. And so she wanted to put together a book of women who are making impact in Arizona and from all corners of the state. And so we're talking to people in the audience were mayors and governors and people that were on Indian reservations. Very diverse book of women who are doing amazing things in our community. Even Sandra Day O'Connor was there, our justice. So I would say having those kind of people in the room, 700 people at the Phoenician, planning something that grand. And of course, we got tons of media, and it was a big deal. So,
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it's like a nice variety because I'm hearing from you, you did this play, you've done, the wedding, you have these large events. And so it sounds to me, really any kind of event can turn into a joyous event.
Exactly. I plan anything,
That's excellent.
Yeah. And no matter the size.
No matter the size. That is important to know because some people may feel intimidated to reach out to an event planner because, I only have 40, 50 people in the room.
Right.
That's not that big of an event.
Right.
But, event planning is tough and you want it to, go smoothly. So it's always good to delegate to experts like yourself to, plan the right vendors, to plan everything happening. And one thing I love about working with you is everything's always on time.
Oh, thank you. That is a pet peeve of mine.
Yes.
When I've taken the time to implement a timeline and a script, I'm type A. I want it to go according to that.
And
I sometimes
appreciate
things
that.
happen.
You got to pivot.
Yes, you do have to pivot.
Everyone knows to pivot, but when, I've been a part of events that we're all set and ready to go and we're 15 minutes late and there's no reason or rhyme for it.
Right.
When there's no reason or rhyme or care for being late and then we're not pivoting to pull away from something else.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
Exactly.
But no, we're definitely always on the same page with everything. It's always such a pleasure.
Well, the goal is to be organized.
Yes.
And so if we show up on time and we're organized and can lay everything out in the allotted time, it just obviously makes things just flow so much better, right?
For everyone. And that's the thing. It's palpable on the other side of it, too. When the crew and all the people part of the event are feeling calm and happy and things are going smooth, it can be felt. When it's chaotic, even when you try to hide it, energy is real.
It is.
People can feel there's something not quite right.
Exactly. Yeah. I think for me, it's all over my face. So
You're
my
like,
husband
I'm not
said,
hiding it.
Exactly. Yeah. You wear your emotions all over your face, Joy. So
yes, excellent. And we're here on Tales with Taylor with Joy Johnson, enjoying one of her favorite cocktails, which is a lemon drop martini. So tell me, what is it about the lemon drop martini?
Let's cheers to that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I love the fruit and the tart taste. Then of course I love the sugar around. It's just it's dainty, but it can be potent, so we better watch out.
I've never had this before. It's actually really good.
You made this?
I made this.
Oh, I may have to hire you as a bartender next time.
Oh, okay.
It is delicious.
Good.
It is just as good as my favorite, which I get at Steak 44.
Oh, well, what?
Yeah, look at you, Taylor. Many skill sets.
Thank you so very much. Yes, I follow directions. and about ingredients. That's the thing, too.
Yes.
You just don't get that good of ingredients that can make a difference. And, a fresh lemon can change everything.
Yes.
So excellent. I would love to know the tale behind your brand. Obviously you're working with your name, but what made you choose, the color schemes of blacks and golds and, what's the tale behind that?
You know what? That's a good question. Let me think. It's been so long ago. And this is the original logo. I have not changed it. Wow. I thought maybe about a little before the pandemic that I would modify it. But it still works. Mm-hmm. The gold obviously is, in my opinion, very rich and pops off the page. Mm-hmm. And then the designer, we talked at length about what is a joyous event
Yeah.
embody? And obviously it's good food.
Yes.
It's beautiful decor. It's why you kind of see the flowers, you know, and then she came up with something very whimsical there.
The more you explain it, the more I see it.
yeah.
Yeah, I always just kind of was. I've seen the logo so many times, and obviously, you know, my teammate made this graphic,
And I love
and
it.
I just, you know, I just kind of. But now, as you explain, I never noticed the plate with the food and
Yes,
the
the little place setting and the
That is
vase
so
with
true.
the flowers, and then she did the little whimsical because at the end of the night, of an
It's like a firework.
has gone off well. I wish I could just, you know, shoot off fireworks and say it was
Yes.
joyous, but you know, not everybody has that in their budget.
No. And honestly, you know, not everyone loves to have fireworks blasting all over the place.
Exactly.
Personally, in Arizona, I find they have a little too much fun with that during certain holidays.
Isn't that the truth? Very much
I look
so.
out my backyard and I'm like, oh my goodness, I did not put out fireworks today. But
I
it
did
was-
not sign up for this.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's so true. I never saw all those details in your logo, but now I do, and I love it more. Yeah, because I personally judge every event by its food.
So do I. You know, for me, weddings that, especially the wedding cake, if the wedding cake is just grand and beautiful, but it tastes awful,
Right?
I'm upset.
Yeah.
Yes, but I have a great baker. She's amazing, and all her cakes are just beautiful and delicious. So anyway, that's another story.
So tell me the tale too of choosing your vendors, because obviously you're like, oh, I have a great cake. You know, you've had to build these relationships. And so
Right.
if someone watching, a lot of our audience are fellow entrepreneurs, business owners, and there might be
okay.
people who be inspired to, you know, become an event planner. But an event planner cannot be the caterer, the florist, the, you know, so on and so forth. So how do you go about choosing your vendors?
Well, I tell you, if their motto is the same as mine, then I mean they're timely. They provide the service that they say they're going to provide, and they show up for me time and time again. Then I like to be able to not have to recreate the wheel. Okay, go to those same tried and true. And for the most part, most of my vendors have been my vendors for years, unless they move away.
Right.
I'm so proud to say that I haven't had like to say a falling out with any vendor where
Right.
I would go away from them. But it was a process, obviously, in the beginning. And sometimes you'll have clients who will come to you and they'll specify, you know, what a vendor that maybe I don't want to use that person because like I have 3 or 4 really wonderful bands that I
Right.
like to choose from. But my last bride last year said, I know those bands that you use, I want somebody different. So we had to go on the hunt.
Oh, okay.
You know, so sometimes I have to do that. But right now, I've got them all in my phone. They know, and we have a relationship. We have a good rapport. They respect me for what I do, and I respect them for what they do. And so 9 times out of 10, they're going to bend over backwards because of that rapport.
Right.
So at this stage of the game, I'm so upset when I reach out to a preferred vendor and I'm like, and they're not there for my date. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
God. And
not
if I have to
available.
scramble because I know. But for the most part, I have 3 to 4 that I really absolutely love. But I do have a plan A in every category.
Right, you need to. You do need to have additional backups for things
Yeah.
because the show must go on.
Exactly. And as the kids say, life be lifing. So it might not work out with this vendor, but I've got a good plan B.
Life be life, and I am so not cool. I do not.
You
I've never heard that phrase.
I just heard it about 3 months ago. The kids are, you know, my kids in their generation, mom, life be life, and huh? That's not grammatically correct. What do you-
Right.
But it's
Yes.
true.
Well, my oldest is only 6, so you know
It'll be something different by the
It'll
time.
be something different by the time he's in, you know, middle school or something
Absolutely.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
right now he's just doing the bro thing. Everything's I'm bro. now.
Oh, he says, oh, that's cute. Though.
Yeah, it is cute because
Yeah.
especially because we'll play sports together, and
Yeah.
so you know if he does like a bad pass, I can just be like, bro, and he cracked up the other day when that happened.
That's adorable.
It is.
Cherish them. Trust me, they grow up so fast.
Oh yes, no, we are really having our fun, and he's actually been really getting into basketball lately too. He
Okay.
plays baseball, but he's been getting into basketball, which has been a lot of fun. We have a hoop at our house, and so he's been able to practice more there.
Okay, very
And
good.
So who knows? I might need to ask for some other tips.
You know what? I got somebody in my house who could give you plenty of it.
Yes, that is awesome. And I just love how supportive your husband is.
Very.
You know, it's always great to find a partner whom is going to support you, you know, to the fullest. And it sounds to me like he really catapulted your business.
He does, and he tells everybody in town that I'm the best event planner in town. I say, honey, stop saying
you are,
that.
as far as I've seen.
I said, you don't know that to be true. Stop saying that. No, he is very supportive. He has, like I said, he got me my first contract. All I had to do was show up and nail the interview. And I'm telling you, I was a nervous wreck. But he has always had confidence in me. I mean, I had confidence in me when we first, because I got married very young. I got married right out of college.
Wow.
And so graduated with a degree, but didn't really want to work in that field. I have a psychology degree, which I've had to use quite a bit in this field.
I'm about to say, you got to deal with a lot of personalities.
Absolutely. and talk a lot of brides off the ledge.
Yeah.
But he has always been in my corner, thinks that I'm the best at what I do, always supportive. And then if anybody asks, him to try to get to me in terms of, event planning, always putting me front and center. And kind of like loving, I think that, when you're married to a celebrity, or somebody that's known, obviously most women, we fall back. And for him, the fact that I've developed my own brand, that I'm known in the community for what I do now, he's so proud.
I love that.
He's so very proud. I mean, his face just, I just see his face light up, when people, we might be out and they'll recognize me or say something about me. I was at your last event and it was this, that, or the other. He loves that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so for, fellow women out there who are navigating being a wife, being a mom, being also an entrepreneur, what's some tips, that you would have for having that balance and being present for all?
Oh, I would say obviously and I think we are all pretty much aware, prioritize. I started my business when our children were small and they were very active, then to sports and my daughter in theater. But being able to really, like for me, I have to write things down and determine exactly how much time I'm going to spend per category.
Right.
The kids are at school, so it's easy to work during that time. But when they're home and they have their activities, to be present in that moment, unless there were time-sensitive,
of course,
items that you had to adjust to. A lot of late nights. I will say that I had quite a few late nights, especially prior to an event, but having an understanding partner, right? And making sure, especially like for me in event planning, which is it's contractual. So it's pretty much flexible.
Yeah.
Making sure that when you're not in execution mode, that you're in family mode, you're in husband mode, partner mode. So I think prioritizing, and they're only 24 hours in the day, and we're supposed to get some sleep during some of that time.
Some of that time. Yeah, you got to rejuvenate your own body and take care of yourself. But what you mentioned there is something that I also do. Write it down. I believe it's not real unless it's written down.
Exactly.
And so my calendar, it's to a T. I even have eat breakfast. I'll put in there so I know to actually do it.
Exactly.
Whether it's picking kids up from school, being at practice. I tend to not even know where my phone is from about 4:30 to 10 o'clock.
That's good.
Because that is my family time. I need to pick up kids from school. I need to make dinners. We need to have dinners, do baths, get to bed.
No, I like that. Now, my phone is still pretty much by my side, but my kids are grown. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
no.
I like
I'm
to throw
with
it
you.
away.
Write it down, and I like to be able to. I'm very goal oriented, so at the end of the day, I like to be able to check it off.
Yes.
I did actually do that, so I check it off my list, and to be able to look back and say, "Oh, I accomplished everything today, or 90%, or not everything I should have." Because sometimes life be life, and there are distractions.
Things happen, yes. But no, it's so important. I do think there's something to that muscle memory of also just checking things off. That on days where maybe you do feel a little less productive, you can maybe look back and go, oh, I did submit that contract. I did do this. I did do that. I should feel like I did do something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
As we work our way to the final event for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Because in my last interview I just had, they just mentioned too how, being a business owner is the hardest thing. The longest hours, but it's the most fulfilling.
Exactly.
And so, it's just a matter of prioritizing, writing it down, and then, giving yourself a little bit of grace and appreciation for what you've actually accomplished.
Exactly.
I know a lot of us in business, we'll just fly through, okay, we made the 1 year, now let's get to the 5, now let's get to the 10, let's get to the 15. We never actually stop to celebrate. But we should be calling you to make an event and celebrate, it sounds like.
You know what? That is so true. And I don't really celebrate. I'd say that all the time because I stay so busy with planning everybody else's events that I really don't take the time to celebrate my own. I think the last time I did that, I won an award in entrepreneurship, and I took the time but I planned a lunch and invited all my clients.
Nice.
And that was probably the last time I really celebrated my, accomplishments. And that was really nice to do that too, right before the pandemic.
Wow. So got everyone together right
got
before?
everybody together and for them to stand up and say such lovely things about their events and how they went, it was very rewarding. But I don't take that time to do that. And I think you're right, we should.
We really should.
Yeah.
Not enough of us celebrate our wins, and we really should. But when it comes to planning an event, what are some of those first initial things people should think about? Or how could people help you in planning an event with coming with certain information?
I like to take the client's vision and bring it to fruition. So what I'll ask upon any initial meeting with a client is, what do you want to see? What is the end goal for your event? Let them outline it to me, and then obviously we brainstorm together about how we get there. And then along the way, obviously things may change or we may have other ideas, but really my motto is that I want to relieve you of the stress. You give me the ideal and let us run with it.
Lovely.
And so every client is different too, because you'll have some clients that want to be more hands-on. And then it's just a matter of just carrying out what they want, unless you see that there are some issues with what they want and maybe just modifying it to show them that it could be better done this way or that. But I like it when a client comes to us and says, I know what I want, and then we go and just make it happen.
So what if they knew what they want, but they don't know the venue? Can you help suggest venues?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I do that all the time. I do a lot of comparison of venues. And because I have a relationship with a lot of event coordinators at different, venues, I might bring you here because I know that you're going to get the best bang for your buck.
Right.
Or I know that they're going to be able to work with us better on decor or AV. So, yes, absolutely. I tell you, one of my biggest pet peeves in speaking about this is when I develop a rapport with an event coordinator at a venue and then they leave.
Oh,
and then the next person comes and they have no idea who I am. And I'm like, go back, look in your file. There has to be a file there.
Yes.
That will show you that I brought I brought 3 events here the last year. I don't want those other prices. I want the best price because, I'm bringing this client to you. That's always a hindrance. But for the most part, if I've developed a rapport with a venue coordinator, then I better negotiate too. Because a lot of times I will negotiate contracts too.
And especially if you're someone who's going to be returning and being a return customer, it's a little easier to negotiate those contracts, as you can guarantee, like, hey, you do a great job. My clients enjoy this. I'm going to recommend you again and again and again.
Exactly.
And so that's something to keep note for people who are wanting to become an event planner and an event organizer, is like build those rapport and remind them.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I mean, what I do is, it's stressful. It shouldn't be, because if I'm organized, it's not. I mean, it's a process. But with what I do, I mean, it's a service-oriented endeavor. And so at the end of the day, if everybody's happy, that is so rewarding to me. That everybody's joyous.
Yes.
I'm supposed to, I like to think that I embody my name for the most part. And so the goal is to be joyous at the end of an event. So if everybody's happy and everybody has a good time, there's no better feeling than that. And the client to come to me and say, we couldn't have done it without you.
Right.
That is, you talk about that, just makes my heart sing. And I have the most beautiful testimonials from clients. It's like my husband goes, I didn't know any better. I think you paid them to write this, because they write such beautiful things about our company and the service that we provide. So we're very fortunate.
Well, you do a phenomenal job. So it really does speak for itself.
Thank you.
And, when you're not working and not being mom or wife, what are some tales that you either love to read or watch? So what are some of your favorite books or movies?
Oh, gosh. Movies. Oh, gosh. The Color Purple, I could watch over and over and over and over again. I love movies. I hate to say this, but Goodfellas.
Hey, that's my husband's, like, one of his favorite movies.
My husband's too, Scarface. So my dad they love those gangster movies, so I will sit and watch those with them. But I'm really a rom-com kind of girl.
Okay, very nice.
I love The Best Man and Love and Basketball, and those kinds of movies that I feel romantic at the end. Books. Romance novels. I'm reading now The Warmth of Other Suns, which is by a Pulitzer Prize author, Isabel Wilkerson. And she tells the tale of the migration of African Americans from South to North for looking for a better life back in the early 1900s on up to like the 50s, 60s. Well, that's my parents' story. That, I was born in Mississippi. My parents were born and raised there. That's where they met at Mississippi Valley State. And then because life was not good for African Americans there, they made their way to Chicago where I was raised. So I'm reading that book right now.
That's nice.
And her writing is amazing. And the fact that I can relate it back to all the stories that I've heard my parents tell over the years has been, really, fun to just kind of get myself absorbed in. So love to travel.
Love to travel?
Oh, love to travel.
Well, I would say you probably got a little used to traveling, being an NBA wife. Those are
did.
back then not quite as many games, but still a lot of games in a season and a lot of traveling. So it's good that you like to travel. What was your favorite city to visit?
To visit New York because I love Broadway. Yeah. And, just the energy and the great food. I always leave New York about 5-6 pounds overweight. But I would say New York, LA, obviously, the ocean. My daughter's there now.
Pursuing acting or?
Acting. Yeah. She's a singer-songwriter.
Wonderful.
Yes. So those are probably my two favorite cities in the United States. But I love traveling overseas.
Other than Phoenix and, right?
Well, yes. Well, we settled here. So absolutely. You can. In a few months, I will really love Phoenix.
My goodness. Once it becomes the end of October, it's just like the best.
This is why we live here.
Why we lived here.
Right now, I question because it's so hot.
I moved to the state without ever visiting the state.
Really?
Yes.
Where did you move from? I don't think
Maryland.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was originally born in upstate New York, grew up mostly in Maryland, and then I moved here. I transferred colleges just because I wanted to get away from the snow, cold, humidity, and at the time, very expensive living in comparison. Because I moved here in 2009.
Okay.
So it was a lot less expensive, and I was like, oh my goodness, look what I could get.
And you went to school here?
I got my bachelor's here. I ended up finishing at a trade school and got my bachelor's. So yeah.
Wow. So your family is?
So I do have a dad that does visit here, but most of my family's still back east.
Still back east.
Yes.
How was that?
It's fine because we are better, I think, as guests to each other.
Okay.
And so we have a better relationship that way, I feel.
Okay.
But it's tough for the kids to not have family close by.
Yeah.
So now my question is, if you were to write a tale, what would be the title of that tale?
I don't know. Taylor, that's a good one.
This is where we put the Jeopardy music in.
I know. I would probably say it would probably be something simple about, it would probably be, you can kill people better with honey than with vinegar.
Ooh.
And just meaning, just be kind to people.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time in this life, just meeting people who are not kind and just loving on people who are. Because it's so easy to be kind. It takes so much energy to be mean. And,
so true.
Yeah. So I would just say that. Just, I like to think that I make a concerted effort to treat everybody as I would want to be treated. And that's one of my mom's staples.
Yes.
And so I would say it would just be that simple.
Lovely.
Be kind to people.
It is truly the golden rule.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I've even had to be teaching my children too. Like, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
Exactly.
Keep it yourself. Because it's so true. It doesn't help anybody, and it actually doesn't even help yourself to be negative.
Exactly.
Positive energy is palpable, and positive energy is magnetic.
It's good for the soul.
Yes.
So I would just say that.
Love that. Yeah. So the golden rule is treat people, and
as if you like you want to be treated.
Yeah, that is the truth.
I always, when people say and do things that I would say, oh, I can't believe that they would say or do that. I would never do that. And my father would say, well, they're not you and you're not them. But it's still, at some point, it's like, if you put yourself in other people's shoes, like for me, if I put myself in your shoes, we should all be doing that.
Yeah.
We should all be thinking, when I say or do something that is not nice, how would I feel if that were done to me?
Oh,
and I don't think the average person does. They don't take the time to do that.
Right.
Yeah. I shouldn't say the average person, because most people are kind.
I hope that most people are kind. I do believe deep down, but it's so true. I think with social media, negativity has been magnified.
It's so sad.
Where it does feel like there's maybe more negativity than it felt before.
And people seem to thrive on it. I mean,
Yeah.
look at all the reality TV shows that just thrive on negativity.
Yeah.
But,
The news. That's the only reason why I feel like the news is alive. It's on negativity.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's a shame.
It is a shame.
And that's where we need to have, positive news. That's where I do try to have this platform also be a positive light for, what I like to say is people having their cake and eating it with a fancy fork.
I love
That's
it.
what you're able to do.
Kudos to you for this.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
because
you.
it's nice to see positive, media out here,
Well, yeah, and it's spreading the truth that, again, you can be a successful business owner, a loving and supporting wife, a loving and supporting and present parent. It is all possible if you have the intention to do so.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we are told a narrative that you have to choose, especially as women, we're kind of sometimes told a narrative. You choose
Right.
a career, you choose family.
Right.
We're told a narrative that, you have to choose, what type of parent do you want to be? Are you going to be president or are you just going to work on your career? But no, there's ways to balance.
Exactly.
So,
And even as a business owner, a lot of times you hear that a lot of successful business owners got that way by being a certain kind of way, which is, they have to play the game. And I'd like to think I don't want to have to play the game.
yeah.
I don't think I've really had to play the game. So that, I still think you can still put out those positive vibes and it will come back.
Most
twofold.
definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So for an event to just hit it with smash, we mentioned you got to have great food. What would be your top 5? This will be a great event if, number 1, you hire you. Number 2, have great food. What's number 3 through 5?
Great entertainment, decor.
Decor. Okay. I don't think people think about that enough. So
I mean, you think about it, you walk into a space and it's lovely. We all like lovely things. I would think that the average person likes lovely things. I mean, people work really hard to create a lovely atmosphere in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you walk into a space and it embodies a theme that you've been disseminating to all of the possible or the attendees, and they walk in the space and they see that theme come to life, that's I love to sit at the back of the room and doors open, and then the venue staff is busy unlocking doors so people can come in and just hear the exclamations from people as they walk in. Oh, look! I love that.
I bet.
So decor and being on time.
Mm-hmm.
Being on time, especially like
Yes.
fundraisers. I do a lot of fundraisers, and sometimes they can't get out of hand because I will tell you, because I implement the timeline and the script, and I have worked with the MCs on the script. We've gone through it, and I wanted them to make it their own. But a lot of times you can't control what they do when they actually get on stage.
Yes.
And then if you're honoring people, I make sure I let them know we've allotted you 3 minutes to, deliver.
No one knows what 3 minutes means.
Oh my God. That is probably one of my biggest pet peeves because that will throw you off.
Mhm.
But a lot of times I can make up time in other places,
Right.
to get back on track. And if it's a great event, 9 times out of 10, your attendees are not going to care that it might have gone 15 to 20
Right. And a lot of
over.
times you kind of have that half-hour networking buffer at the end that you
Exactly.
kind of can tag into. Okay, now we
Exactly.
only have a 15-minute networking buffer at the end.
Exactly.
That's very true.
Yes.
How do you choose a centerpiece? Because it's not always flowers. How do you
No.
choose a centerpiece?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of flowers at night because I'd rather do something more sexier, like candles
Okay.
or this, that, or the other.
In
Unless
the
it's a wedding.
ambiance.
Unless it's a wedding.
Yes.
If it's a wedding, then, although I've talked some brides into, let's do a combination of both. But the centerpiece, I've got a great decor vendor, Avant-Garde. I'm going to say their names. If anybody out there, they are the best floral designers in town. And they own other things. They don't just have flowers.
Okay.
They own other. You've seen, have you really seen at the event that we work on? She doesn't use a lot of, because it's a daytime, it's a luncheon.
It's a daytime, yeah. I don't feel like I've seen too many
You
other
haven't seen. I
things.
concentrate more on that for her.
Yeah.
Because it's a daytime, it's a breakfast, lunch kind of event.
Yeah.
So we concentrate on the flowers. And, my goal, my staff, hey, let's make sure that everybody walks away with a flower at the end of this
Yes.
so that they don't get left behind and we're not throwing them away. That's too much money down the drain.
Mm-hmm.
But this Avant-Garde has beautiful just candelabras, and they're just so creative in what, I wish we could show your viewers some of the things that we've done. I mean,
Hey, send some photos. We'll have to put them up there.
yeah, I will.
Yeah,
I
send some
will.
photos.
Like, we did my husband and I are aligned with an organization, Helping Hands for Single Moms.
Oh, okay.
And so we've raised to date almost $2 million, over $2 million for single moms to go back and get their education, making them the hero in their family. And the reason that we've aligned with them, my husband was raised by a single mom. And
Yeah.
so I've just gotten on board because I love what they're doing. But in any event, we've been, because he's tied to the Phoenix Suns, we've been roasting some Phoenix Suns here. And so we've done wonderful centerpiece of basketballs and glittery balls that stand like 8 feet off the center of a table. And
Wow.
you walk in the room and it's just, purple and orange with all these beautiful balls or light balls and basketballs. So how do I pick a centerpiece? I hone in on the theme, get with my decor designer, and we brainstorm, and I walk around his studio, which has everything in it. I mean, he does just most of the large events in town.
Wow. Okay. So they just have like this nice like warehouse of things and props and centerpieces.
And I can show them a picture and say, can you make this? They make things,
Okay.
Yeah.
You're making my wheels turn for a future event we'll have.
Oh, God, yeah. That they would be my go-to for sure.
Excellent. That sounds, that's just, because it's always nice to have more than flowers. I've been to a lot of events where, they just do these creative things in the middle, perhaps, or, and so it's just like, how do you choose that? Like my brain doesn't think that way of, how do you choose?
You have to
these
hone
types of
in on
things?
it. And I'm telling you, a lot of times, Taylor, I will wake up with an idea.
Yeah.
God will wake me up and I'll be like, oh yeah, because I'm gonna tell you this. I keep a notebook and a pen on my nightstand. So if I wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, I can write it down.
Nice.
And obviously expound upon it the next day. But yeah, there's so much out there, and obviously align yourself with people who are more creative than you are. They can actually put this together because I can't build anything. So,
well, you have great. I know the balloons that you always have too. They're just so pretty. Like
I have
who
a
would
great
think,
balloonist.
Balloons could just look so gorgeous. But they just do such a fabulous job.
That's Joelle. She the client. She tells me what she wants. Of course, I have to adhere to everybody's budget. And then it's my job to go and make that happen. Great balloonist, Events by Jamila. She does a beautiful job. Young woman. Yes. Young woman.
Yeah,
yes.
She is.
She's a young woman.
Fabulous work though. Like,
have you seen her come in just like
15
she's a
minutes? Magician. Like I just out of nowhere, you're like there was just a plain empty stage of nothing, and then the next thing you turn and it's just this like colorful, gorgeous, multi-size.
She's amazing.
And she's put some sort of spray on it so it just glosses. Like it's so beautiful.
That's one of those tried and true vendors. She's another one.
Yeah. It's amazing. And so for those who are watching who are inspired to become you, what would be some of those first steps you would tell someone to take in, starting their own event planning business?
I would say, don't go the route that I did unless you absolutely fall into it, because I did, I just had the fortune to fall into it at the hands of my husband. If you could work for an event planner or in a space, work at the Sheraton or the Monte Lucia, be able to actually hone your skills under the tutelage of somebody in that space. I would say that. Intern for me, contact me. I'm always putting together a team. I've had most of my staff probably for, God, I would say this last group, 10, 15 years.
Wow.
But they do other things because we're not working. Events are not every day. And then so I galvanize them based on need. So if you want to, hey, give me a call. Might be an event that you could come and you see exactly how it all lays out from beginning to end. And then, you know what? They have a curriculum now at ASU.
Oh, wow.
And event planning. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes. They've now devised a curriculum. So if you want to go to school for event planning, you surely could do that as well.
Wow. I had no idea that would be
I'm not sure if it's called exactly that, but I had one of my staff members who was pursuing that at ASU for a while.
Wow, that's fabulous. So there's always ways to learn, it sounds like. But it sounds like, kind of get your feet wet, get your hands a little dirty, get in it, learn how to, really hold an event and organize an event. Maybe don't dive in head first like you had to.
Well, but you know what then too? Try to plan an event for somebody in your family. There's always something going on, a wedding or
birthday
baby shower.
Party even.
Exactly. Yeah. Offer to help.
That's a great idea too. Because even a little kid's birthday party, you'll be amazed at all the little things you got to think about.
Absolutely.
Food still, decor still,
everything. Where to place everything, set up.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's so true. Well, this has been such a joyous interview, I'll have to say.
That's good to know.
And so when people are ready to have a fabulous event, how is it that they should get a hold of you? We'll have all of your links in the show notes, but what would be the number one way you recommend people get a hold of you?
Call me, email me, or send me a direct message on Facebook or Instagram. I answer to all of them. But I would say the best way would probably or text me. I had a mother of the bride text me a couple of weeks ago. She heard about me from a friend.
Okay, good.
Me.
I'm like, mother of the bride, that sounds scary.
But she's wonderful. I got to meet she and the bride just a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And they're wonderful.
Lovely. Yeah. No, mother of the bride. I know that was my mom at my wedding. She was the one to watch out for. But
My mother too.
Yeah, well, because it's almost their day, just as much as it's ours.
Isn't that the truth? We have to remind them, Mom, I'm the one getting married. I don't want da-da-da-da-da. But a lot of times I got just nullified. No. We're having this. Is this what we're doing?
Yes.
I'm paying for this. My parents are. We're paying for this. So.
Yes. No, that was it. And I said, well, if it's coming out of your budget and you're paying for it, then I guess I'll throw my hands up.
Exactly.
Fine, you can do that. So that is very true.
Right.
So where did you two get married? Was it in Chicago?
Chicago. Okay, and we just celebrated 40 years. Can you believe that?
So beautiful. I can't wait to get to there. We're only at 8, but we'll get there eventually.
You will get there. Take your time.
Yes.
I can't believe it's been that long.
That's
Time
amazing. Well, you look fabulous. You don't even look like you could have been married. You know, look like we should be calling the cops about that to be married for 40 years.
Oh, thank you. Yes, 40 years.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, then for a final tip, what would be a message for how to get to 40 years of marriage, of beautiful, supportive marriage? What would be your one tip there?
Just that compromise, but support each other. Each other's dreams. You know, obviously I've supported his, he's supported mine. Open and honest communication. And sometimes that hurts.
But being clear is kind. Yeah,
Exactly.
Brene Brown, there's a whole book about it. Just being clear is kind.
Exactly. I love that. Yes.
That's beautiful. So someone's ready to have an event. Do they have to pay to have a consult? Do you have, free consults? Or, what is that first initial step I should make other than just picking up the phone to start having a fabulous event?
Free consult.
Free consult. That's so huge. Sometimes I get nervous to call places because I don't want to be, it's $150 that we'll put towards your credit when we go and sign. And that's just sometimes hesitant because you don't know if you're going to use that vendor or not.
Exactly. No, absolutely free consult. You do not make a payment to me until we have a contract.
Perfect.
Now, but I will tell you this, I have had maybe one or two. I thought they were possible clients, but they want to call and just get all the tea. And so, and then they don't use me, but they go on and plan their own event and they use my vendor. So that's not cool. But
that's not cool.
But you know what?
But if someone's trying to gauge for a budget, what can you help me with a 50-person $3,000 event for an hour luncheon?
Yes.
If someone had that kind of conversation or question, you could have that dialogue with them.
Absolutely. I would answer that.
Yeah.
Because I'm under the guise of, what God has for me is for me. And so if I've given you the information and you go off and do it yourself, that's fine. Something always comes along.
But that's also karma where it's going to come back around.
You know what? I used to get a little offended by it. It would kind of hurt my feelings. But I mean, I have so many events now that, and this could be a problem. I don't think I really turn anybody away. The only time I turn you away is if I have something on the same day already and can't do it. But I have done 2 events in one day.
Whoa.
Yes. Did a golf tournament one morning. And then that evening we left and ran right and finished a wedding.
Oh my goodness. And then you hopefully took a week off to recuperate.
That was right before Christmas. So I took the rest of December off. But
lovely.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, obviously sooner the better, but what would be the leeway that you would typically desire to have for planning an event?
Ideally, 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months? Okay, that's
but
really
depending on what it is.
Yeah.
I would say
that's great. Most people think, I have to have 6 months to a year out ahead. Although, have you noticed post-COVID people being a little slower on pulling the trigger on certain things? On actually,
no, they're actually quicker.
Quicker, really?
Yes, people are. I think because we were so in lockdown mode, people are really back to wanting to, celebrate good times and make more memories and spend more money, So no, post-COVID, I would say prior to post-COVID, I probably averaged about 14 events a year.
Okay.
Post-COVID, I'm averaging about 20, 22, 23 events a year.
And they're planning well in advance. Because my issue is I feel like I'm getting less leeway. I'm hearing I have something in 30 days versus, hey, in 4 months we have this event happening.
I'm not getting too many 30 days ones.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. but 4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months. Okay. That should be doable for anyone.
Exactly.
You already know on your calendar whether you're supposed to be having some sort of celebration.
Exactly.
That is, plenty of, that's not that much time for you, honestly.
It's not.
Okay, so 4 to 6 months, you could have at the 6 months mark, perhaps have an initial consultation with you that's complimentary. And then you get your contract, and then you get to rocking and rolling, and you take care of the rest. You make sure the food arrives, the decor arrives, that any special guests or entertainment arrives,
Absolutely.
then the host just gets to arrive and enjoy their day.
Absolutely. And then one step that I missed. After that consultation, and we talked about your vision and what exactly you see as your responsibilities versus ours, then I send you a proposal outlining everything for you to review, because you might say, oh, no, we'll do this, or no, I don't want to do this, you do this. Then once we agree upon those terms, I send the contract.
Lovely. Yeah. That is excellent. That's good to know, because especially as a business owner, you always got to be conscious of your budget and conscious of things. And so even sometimes those little, consultation, even if it's just $150, you're still like, okay, I might choose to go here. What doesn't charge me? Exactly. And so that is great that you will obtain all that information, provide that proposal. And then only once that proposal is signed off, then, it's pay the deposit, pay everything, get going, and have a fabulous event.
That's it.
Lovely. Is there certain color schemes that are better for daytime versus nighttime?
Oh, no. I think I love, for me, daytime. And you know this too, Taylor, because a lot of times the client that we have in common, she'll give me the color scheme and then I just can get to go. A lot of times, most times people will want it to be, have to do with their logo. So I love color. So look,
you do love color.
I love color. So daytime, I would just say bright colors. Sometimes you want to go with what's already in the room and kind of, depend on that. But a lot of times a client will come to you with the colors that they want you to, heighten. And it's your job to do just that. In nighttime, same thing. I love these colors of my logo for nighttime.
Yes. It's very glamorous.
Yes. The black, white, and gold, or, black, white.
Feels like a black tie event.
Exactly.
More,
Exactly. But it's either the logo, the theme, or I look around the room and go, let's pull these colors out if the client hasn't come to me with a logo or theme.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You really, truly, from start to finish, can get your event up and running and fabulous, and one that people will be talking about for years to come.
Thank you.
So thank you again for being just awesome and just being one of those fabulous people that I love working with. Our mutual client that we have. It's like, thank you.
Always good when we're on board together.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, thank you again, Joy. So how is it that people can get a hold of you so they can have their fabulous event?
You can call me at 480-707-7703 or email me at joy@joyousevent.com.
Excellent. We'll make sure all of those links are provided to you, as well as links to her socials, and we'll take a look at some of the photos on the page as well of some of the fabulous events, and we'll also link to some videos that we've collaboratively done with Dr. Joelle Martin.
That'd be awesome.
And take a look at Dr. Joelle Martin's interview too. She's been on Tales with Taylor as well, and so. Fabulous people always here sharing their tales about being successful in business and life. So thank you again for being here with me.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Tales with Taylor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Financial Potion YouTube channel to never miss an episode.